Um, and I want to wish you Bon Fête Drapeau, which is Happy Flag Day. Tomorrow is actually Haitian Flag Day, so celebrating the independence of Haiti in 1804. And I think the flag was actually adopted in 1803, like during the Independence Revolution. But it was actually the second country to become independent in our hemisphere after the United States, the only successful slave revolt. So it's really, people in Haiti really take their patriotism for their country seriously and see themselves as like an example of standing up for freedom in the world. But today, mostly, I want to think about the children. And I'm going to teach you a few Haitian proverbs, but one is Petit c'est richesse malheureux, which is the children are the riches of the poor. So a lot of the news out of Haiti is not always that good. There's a lot of disturbing things happening, but today I want to mostly talk about like this light that's shining on the North Coast. Between all the children that are still going to school as best they can, still studying, still learning, still participating in activities, and as well as their mentors who are leading this. I'll show you a picture of Johnny, who's been to visit here before. But I want to keep them in mind. And also, like in times of crisis, education is a really important thing to keep going because it provides like some stability for them, something to do. It provides them with like hope and mentors, and like also hopefully the crisis is not going to go on forever, and we're going to need the next generation to be ready to take over leadership in Haiti. And I feel really confident that these kids are being mentored by people like Johnny and the other leaders in the Foundation Dauphin. A couple other details on education. So in terms of like an economic investment, it can increase the GDP. Every year additional of school that the kids go to increases GDP by 30%, and it has an increase of 3 to 6% in their individual incomes. Also, the rate of return on $1 invested in education is between 12 and 27%, which is better than all the other like stocks and bonds and everything else we might invest in. So this is a really good place to put some money and invest in the future. Friends of Borgne, it started officially in 2008 during the food crisis because we were noticing that the price of like rice and everything doubled in 2008, and so people didn't have money to pay tuition. So there were a group of people, mostly from Honey Eye Falls, but also from around Rochester, teachers and educators who had been to Haiti previously back in like the late 1990s, I believe, mid to late 1990s. Who had been doing instructional activities with teachers and helping them up their like activity, like active learning kind of activities. And they were interested in starting something, and at the same time there was a group of teachers in Borgne that wanted to start a children's foundation to help more kids be able to go to school during this time of crisis. So Friends of Borgne kind of came out of that collaboration between the Foundation Dauphin and that's the Haitian group, and what we later called the Friends of Borgne. Then, because so many people from Friends of Borgne were from Honey Eye Falls, Johnny, who at that point was the mayor in Borgne, this is the town of Borgne, the foundation is actually like on, I don't know which building it is here, but like on the coast here. It's a little blurry. He had come up to visit, and he had met with Mayor Rick Milne, and they started talking about potentially being sister cities, and we were able to make that happen. So Borgne and Honey Eye Falls are one of the few like smaller cities that have become sister cities.
In my town.
Yeah. And Dick Haviland was the like major part of that. Here's a picture of the ceremony. That's Johnny, and Rick Milne, and Dick, and me a long time ago. I brought my Haitian paper. I was going to wear it for you, but this is, his name is actually Francis Dauphin Estimab, but everybody calls him Johnny. It was like a fight between his godmother and his mother over what his name should be, and so his mother picked Francis, but his godmother picked Johnny, and Johnny stuck. So these were some of the original 25 kids that we had in the foundation. So these kids are probably in their 20s now. I think this was like the second year of the scholarship programs. So we started out with 25, now we have 50. They were selected by going to the different neighborhoods and talking to the community about which families are most in need in this neighborhood, who should we help with, assist with going to school. So in addition to tuition, because you have to pay to go to school, they also receive money for the books and the shoes and the backpacks and the uniforms, all the like accoutrements that you need to go to school, which actually costs about as much as the tuition itself. So, and in some cases, for like the cheaper schools, this might cost more than the actual tuition. As we went along a few years into it, we decided that it might make more sense to sponsor schools than to sponsor specific kids. So we ended up sponsoring 3 schools. These are the professors from the Wesleyan School, which had closed, and we helped to reopen it again by paying like subsidies to support the teachers so that the kids didn't have to pay so much for tuition. Then there's a couple other schools. This is the T. Riviere School under construction. There's a guy on the roof there when they were building it. And this was an accidental project, I guess, because when Joan and Florence and who else? I don't know. Oh, Bill Neese were visiting. They had come to like see the school, and there was a kind of an inauguration of it. And when the people there were like, "Oh, will you help us support the school into the future? Help us sustain the teachers?" And Joan was gonna say like, "We will go back and talk about it," but "we" in Creole means yes. So as soon as they heard "we," everybody started cheering, and Joan was like, "All right." So now we have another school. And and there's another school that I didn't have a picture of called the Jericho School. They're both kind of up in the mountains, and the kids from these areas would have to walk like an hour or 2 hours to get to the school in the town, and they have to cross the river multiple times. So people wouldn't send their kids to school till they were like 8 or 9 because they were afraid of having them cross the river. So this kind of helped kids start schooling earlier. This is the Catholic school in town, which is considered the best school, but there was a point a few years ago when this was also in danger of closing, and the community really wanted to keep it going because it had the best results in terms of like passing the national exams. So we were able to find a donor in Rochester and keep this school going also. And now a lot of our students go there as a way to like help support the school, unless they choose to go to somewhere else. They can choose to go to any school in town that they want. But if they don't have a specific one in mind, they go here. There's also a food program. So the tuition is about 25% of our spending. The food is about 25% also. Food is a pretty expensive thing to provide for people every day. We were cooking up until COVID, and more recently we've been doing like kits that they take home and their families can cook. That way it can get shared with some other kids in the family also. We have this there was our old building, and now we're not able to rent this anymore, so we're in the process of building a new space. So once that's done, I think we'll go back to cooking, at least some of the time again. So this is the old building, which is actually right here, and is going to be torn down. We were renting it, and now we're constructing the second floor here to be the space for the kids to gather to potentially eat, to study, to have practices and like summer programs and things like that. We don't have a school ourselves because we use the schools in town, but this would be like a separate gathering space for all the extracurricular activities. So one of the projects is the mobile library, which is a donkey-based library, and it was funded by what was the grant called?
Collaborative Ministry Grant from the Presbyterian Genesee Baptist.
So they funded us getting a new set of books and maintaining the donkey, getting a new house for the donkey. I think somebody donated the donkey. This is Beulah, is the donkey, and this is Osius, who's the librarian, and he takes the books out to different schools and stays there for like a night or two so the kids can take the books home and read them, and then they return them. They also have like 50 copies of Clara Barton was one of the ones that they wanted, I don't know, that they study together and do like lessons with. This is the previous donkey. The new one got arrested recently for eating in somebody's garden. So And we had to pay a small fee to release them. Another program that we've been doing for a number of years is the sewing program. These were the original 10 sewing machines. These over time deteriorated. Yeah, they're like treadle sewing machines. There were a number of people who learned on these machines and now work as seamstresses. For the schools, that people have to have their uniforms made, so that's a lucrative business for somebody to be in, making uniforms for school, wedding dresses, things like that. We just bought a set of new machines. I think it was in like 2022, but then the political crisis happened and we haven't been able to get them delivered because of the gang activity. And then we didn't have a building to put them in. So now that we're almost ready to have them delivered, I think, from Dominican Republic. So stay tuned for new sewing program coming soon. But in 2020, the group of students with the sewing machines made thousands of masks that they distributed to the hospital. And this is like the food program for the elderly. They distributed to people who didn't have access to masks. And then the pet project, Friends of Borgne, Dick Haviland's pet project, is the band. So the band has been a super successful project that we've been working on since maybe like 2014. Yeah. It started with kazoos. Like we started with just like some basic stuff. And then Dick did a fundraiser and collected instruments. So if you have any instruments laying around at home that you're not using, a kid played it and doesn't play it anymore, we take instruments and send them down. The original set went down and then they got blessed. This is like a blessing of the instruments outside the church when the band first started playing. Here they are, like one of the first times they acted as a marching band was when I came to visit and noticed they're wearing Honey I Falls soccer shirts. That was their first uniform because we had brought down a number of Honey I Falls soccer shirts also. They just had their 10th anniversary a year ago. And then recently they were invited to Cap Haitian to perform. They actually had a paid gig to perform at an anniversary for a school there. And they commissioned these new uniforms from some of the people that went through the sewing program. So it's all kind of coming around and coming together, but they're looking pretty sharp. They've had a shortage of instruments, so they sometimes have to borrow instruments.
And also when my dad passed, they wrote a song for my dad.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they sent a video of them playing their song, which I can probably find for you, but here they are looking pretty sharp. There's also majorettes. So sometimes the summer programs will be like training in dance or music. So this is some examples of summer programs. Last year there was a cooking program. A little bit older students participated in that. And there's been basic programs for the older students that are now have expertise in the instruments, teach the younger ones. So we haven't had to pay for teachers in a while. We mainly just pay for like maintenance of the instruments or if the band needs a little additional infusion. And then on our 10th anniversary of the foundation, we went with a big art program. This is Richmond Futch, and he's the local artist in Rochester. And he brought all the materials and taught them how to do some painting. And I made this little special tribute to him because he just passed last week. And so I was looking through the pictures and feeling sad, but I like that it says, "Thank you, Richmond Fush," from the students in there. So I'm gonna post this, I think, on our blog to remember him. And then we just this year participated in a contest for Sister Cities. And so we had one of the students from the foundation wrote a poem, and this was she took a video of her speaking the poem. We haven't heard the results yet of whether she won the contest or not, but we're hoping next year to really engage a lot more students in participating in that. And we could here too also potentially have students from Honey I Falls participate in that. Then just some pictures of some of our graduates. Denise was our first graduate. The women seem to be doing well, which is nice. And then there's some pictures from fundraisers at Honey I Falls, Dipper Dan's in the summer, coming up at the end of July, or beginning of August. I don't think we have a date yet exactly, but keep an eye out for that. And then we also do something in the fall. We usually did the soup sales. I think we're going to be moving to a euchre tournament.
Yeah.
But lots of activities around here to also be involved in to help support the sister city. There's me and Johnny eating ice cream. And thank you for your attention and for being part of this.